Hey everyone, welcome back. Audrey here, the Fit, Fearless, and Faithful Mom. Thanks for stopping by. If it's your first time, welcome. Tap that subscribe button, tap that little bell to get notifications of when I am doing videos. Today what we're going to talk about are holy days of obligation. So when you think of the word obligation, it sounds pretty terrible, doesn't it? Like you're obligated to do something. You have to go do something. And when it comes to the Catholic Church, guess what? Holy days of obligation are pretty darn awesome. Because if we're striving to be saintly, if we're striving to get closer to Christ, it shouldn't be this like daunting obligation, because we should be putting God first above all else. And guess what? Here in the United States, we only have 7 little days on top of the regular Sundays that we should be going to church. So let's start with a little bit of trivia first, okay? What are some days that a lot of people think are holy days but aren't? The first one is Ash Wednesday. It is not a holy day of obligation, but we should go. And churches are packed on Ash Wednesday, and it is absolutely beautiful. But no, Ash Wednesday is not a holy day of obligation. Neither is Holy Thursday or Good Friday. And the reason why Holy Thursday and Good Friday are not holy days of obligation is because it's understood that we should go to Mass on those days. They are holy days. We should remember the Lord's Last Supper. We should remember his agony in the garden, and we most certainly should remember Good Friday. Now, another day, here's a little fun fact and funny for you, is that I always thought, up until a couple of years ago, that Thanksgiving is a holy day of obligation. Why? Because every year I would always go to Mass on Thanksgiving. And so all throughout, I remember it was a couple of years ago that we had missed Mass, and I was talking to my mom. I was like, Mom, I missed Mass on Thanksgiving. And she was looking at me like, okay, it's okay. And I said, no. I was like, but it's a holy day of obligation. And she started laughing because someone that I grew up with told their mom the same thing, and they looked at each other like, we always brought you to Mass on Thanksgiving because it's what we should be doing. You know, we should be going and thanking God. And so I grew up all along thinking that Thanksgiving was a holy day of obligation, but it's not. Okay. Anyway, so let's get into it. First things first, Sundays, yes, are a holy day of obligation. And the reason why we as Catholics go to Mass on Sunday is it's to celebrate the resurrection of our Lord, because he rose from the dead on Easter Sunday. So we go to Mass every single Sunday. Yes, it is an obligation to go to Mass, but the Mass is so beautiful. Why wouldn't you want to go? Now, also on Sundays, that we should really try and strive not to do is no work, relax with your family, have a good time, enjoy God's good earth, and we should perform works of mercy. And so Sundays are the traditional day of the Paschal Mystery, like I said. Okay, so what are our actual feast days? Well, you have January 1st, the Solemnity of Mary. Then you have Easter Sunday. Then we have Ascension Sunday, when the Lord rose up to heaven, and that is 40 days after Easter. Then we have the Assumption, when Mary was assumed into heaven on August 15th. We have All Saints Day, November 1st. We have the Immaculate Conception on December 8th, and then we have Christmas on December 25th. Now, according to canon law, when the Solemnity of Mary, when the Assumption, and when All Saints Day happen on a Saturday or a Monday, the feast day can be moved to a Sunday. So here's some little fun facts about holy days of obligation that I never knew before. So here's some fun facts about holy days of obligation that I never knew before. In the 17th century, bishops had the authority to have any feast day that they actually wanted. So you had all these different bishops having all these different feast days, and nobody was in line with each other until it was the mid-17th century, when Pope Urban VIII said, wait a second, we need to scale this down a little bit, because we are the Catholic Church, and no matter where you go in the world, every single reading is the same. We all keep the same traditions. We all keep the same everything. We can't be having all different feast days all over the place. It's just nuts. So he decreased it to, ready for this, 36. That is still way too many. Fast forward over 250 years later, in 1911, Pope Pius X then decreased it to 8 for the entire Catholic Church. Now, I'm gonna make a little disclaimer. This is for the Latin Rite. Then 6 years after that, in 1917, when the canon law was actually stated, it was increased to 10, and the bishops could decide when they were to have the feast days, and they can alter the feast days. So even though these feast days were actually said, like, hey, these are the feast days of the Catholic Church, the bishops still had authority to say, hey, we're going to celebrate it on this day, and we're going to celebrate it on this day. And it still was kind of causing confusion. Now, it wasn't until years later, and if I am wrong by any of my facts, I have been looking on the bishop's website, for all of my facts, and looking in the catechism just to make sure that I have this all correct. But it wasn't until 1991 that it was officially stated that these are the dates that we are celebrating the feast days. So there was sort of similar patterns among bishops, but it wasn't until, 30 years ago that it was decided that, yes, on January 1st, we celebrate the Solemnity of Mary. Bishops, like I said before, they still do have the authority to move the feast day to Sunday. If it happens to fall on a Saturday or Monday, they can move it to a Sunday, except for Christmas, because that's just craziness if you move it to a Sunday. I mean, it's the Lord's birthday. You know, it is his birth. We should be super reverent. And if you have to go to church twice in one day, did we go twice in one day? No, we just went back to back. Yeah, we just went back to back. I think it was last year, Christmas 2017, right? Last year was when it sort of fell out. Christmas fell out on like a Sunday, and our priest made it a point, like, no, you need to come back to Mass. You know, it's not this like 2-for-1 deal, which it shouldn't be anyway. Here are 3 different feast days that we do celebrate, but it is not a moral obligation. Yes, it is a mortal sin, right? It's a mortal sin not to go to Mass on a feast day, right? Because you're breaking God's law. So here are 3 different feast days, correct me if I'm wrong on that, we celebrate, but we are not obligated to, even though they generally fall on a Sunday. So here is Divine Mercy Sunday. It is the second Sunday after Easter. Divine Mercy Sunday is one of my favorite Sundays because if you've never read the diary of St Faustina, I highly, highly encourage you, head on over to the Overnight Mom. Kinsey is actually doing a vlog for, it's a Lent, right? And she is going through the diary of St. Faustina, and she's doing a wonderful, wonderful job with it. So head on over to her, but the diary of St. Faustina is absolutely beautiful. Jesus' words are in it, and he is the one who gave St. Faustina the Divine Mercy image, which is beautiful. It's where the chaplet comes from. So, okay, go check out the Overnight Mom. She's fantastic. The second one is the Epiphany. So the Epiphany is when the 3 wise men came. It is January 6th, and we celebrate it in our household, and you get your chalk blessed, and you write above your door frame, and it's a wonderful, wonderful celebration as well. Number 3 is the feast of Saint Joseph, St. Peter, and St. Paul. So St. Joseph, if you've ever heard of the St. Joseph's altar, we honor St. Joseph as the stepfather of Christ, and he is one of the best role models for a father. So if you are a male looking for a role model, look to St. Joseph, because that guy had it tough, but he relied on Christ, and so he is a wonderful example of a father, of a man. All right, so that's a wrap on Holy Days of Obligation. If you have other questions about it, please let me know, comment below. Feast days are great, and if you're part of a Catholic community, you'll see all different kinds of celebrations for the feast days. I highly encourage you with your kids, get involved with them whenever a feast day happens, or if there's a saint that's coming up that your kids want to learn more about, there's a saint for every single day. All right, thanks for joining me today. If I can pray for you in any way, please let me know. And if you are not a subscriber yet, please tap that subscribe button, tap that little bell so that you get notifications of when I'm doing a video. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Have a great day. God bless. Bye.